What's up, everybody? Welcome back to ALLSMITH. Today I'm excited. It's a part 2 with somebody you guys are very familiar with. He's a husband, a father, a coach, and an educator who has spent his life building strength in others. But somewhere along the way, his mission changed a little bit. Because the real test wasn't just about the gym. It was at home. It was in life. It was trying to pursue what was next. And through his work with the Father's Guild, he's helping men step into a deeper standard. It's become this very deep, meaningful journey around helping men become harder to kill and easier to love. This conversation is about responsibility, it's about identity, and about the kind of strength that actually matters when nobody's watching. And that's not just the strength you see in the mirror. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really excited to welcome back Pat Barber. Welcome to the show, man.
Stoked to be here again, man. Always fun. This time you're not coming back in the rainy thing, and we're making it work.
Yeah,
it's good.
Changing it up, having some fun. That's the thing we kind of talked about loosely offline is it's really fun to create content that's engaging for people. Like the ambiance matters. Like the look matters. It creates a space that hopefully invites people in. To be like, hey, like, yes, the content is really cool, and long form sometimes is hard to reel people into, but once they get there, like, okay, like, I get what's going on here. So that's kind of our goal.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Like, I mean, even the phrasing of what you just did there is like the look matters, and it's something that I go to hoping and wishing it didn't matter. I wish the content could speak for itself as just like because I think art's one thing, right? I think when someone's doing like a musical piece or they're making a movie or it's supposed to be really cinematic and it's supposed to be beautiful, like it's trying to touch an emotional nerve. And I think there's something beautiful to that. So I think absolutely the look matters, right? But when it comes to content and ideas and thoughts, which is what I view this stuff as, I've always been of the mindset of like the content should speak for itself. But we're in a day and age where that's not the case. Like you said, like it needs to be inviting, it needs to grab people in a way because we're so overstimulated that if I have like groundbreaking ideas, it doesn't matter. It needs to be groundbreaking ideas filmed in 4K with a silly little hook and, you know, something that you feel like you can connect to. And I don't know, maybe that's a point of contention for me. And like the way you phrased it there is I was like, it shouldn't matter if like the content's good. It shouldn't matter, but we're in a day and age where it does.
I think.
So I don't know.
I
don't know what your thoughts on that
are. My natural like default inner thoughts are exactly that. Like the content should matter more than the marketing strategy, and it's wild to me. I mean, you probably see this with social media influencers, like. I mean, I'm somebody that's not a huge consumer. Like, I love to post and ghost. The majority of my algorithm is, like, camping stuff, my, like, thought leaders, some of my really close friends, artists or, like, musicians that I love to follow, and mostly basketball stuff and things that I find humorous. And it's like, I love the stuff that's, like, meaningful, but that's not the stuff that always hits, and it's tough to sit with that sometimes. But I also think taking it a step further now, we just celebrated our 1-year wedding anniversary, my wife and I. Huge shout out to my wife, Marissa Smith. I will say this, I think I did a pretty cool job. Like, our house is cabiny. It reminds me of camping. We've got the sauna cold plunge in the back. It's edgy, you know, it's not perfect, but like I kind of helped create the house. Now that she's come in, she's made it a home. Like the lighting is better, like where she put certain things like is way more welcoming as far as like, oh, we can have somebody sit here and you can have coffee here and you can do prayer and meditation there and it's connected to the sunlight and we can organize this there and that there. And I'm like, whoa. Okay, there's levels to this game that I'm still learning.
Oh, for sure. And I think you can tell, like, in different houses when you walk in, you know, what type of a person has had a hand in it. Like, I think we're all different, but I do not see things. Like I don't see style. I don't see the thought that goes into stuff. Like it blows my mind when people point it out to me. I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. But there is like a certain, there's a feel you get when you walk into some spaces versus other places. And I get that where I walk into a space and be like, oh, this feels good. Like, what is this? Like, and then I pay closer attention. Like my brain's just not wired for those little details. But same with my wife, like she just makes stuff so great. And it's like, my favorite compliment that we get in our house is like my wife would have things a lot more meticulous than she currently does, but we have 4 kids and we live in a farm and we've still got like holes and stuff in the floor. So like, but she does put together a great house. And when people come to our house and they walk in, they're like, this feels really lived in. And I take that as like a super compliment, because like I'm always weirded out. And if this is your house or someone else's house, then I'm not insulting you, but I'm letting you know my perspective. When I walk into the house and it feels touch. Yes, when it's sterile, when everything's sterile.
Like, our house is just spotless. Like yours, big dog.
I'm like, what? How do you like? Why? What? Because to me, what that speaks to is like I need to control something, and I really need to control my space, and that's, I mean, obviously me projecting on that, but it's like it's definitely something where I'm far more of a fan of a house I walk into and I go, oh, that feels lived in. It feels like these people are alive and they've got things going on, and not like a hovel, because there's a difference between like a hoarder and people who just don't clean, and you're like, that's also gross. But it's like this sense of being lived in and being real. I guess authenticity is what I'm
and I think that'll
like
segue well into what we talk about later, which is around training for function versus physique. And we can definitely double tap on that a little bit later, but first and foremost, bro, I had to bring this up to you.
Okay.
When we travel, we usually go to Costco and we buy those hard-boiled eggs, like the dual ones, and we're always just like, hey, these are great for breakfast, and then we'll grab some sort of like cold brew coffee or something like that we can just like swig and be like our morning routine, whatever. Low sugar, high protein, try to get some nutrients. Also just like low barrier to entry. And so we end up at this hotel. Usually it's in a cooler, but we end up at this hotel. So I put the hard-boiled eggs in there. And the refrigerator's so freaking cold that it makes frozen hard-boiled eggs.
Yes, you did it. You did it accidentally.
It was so bad. I like pulled it out and I was like, baby, don't eat this.
Yes. Dude, it's so gross. And you're saying that because I posted the other day being like, hey, if you're curious what happens when you freeze a hard-boiled egg,
it's so bad. The texture of it is just like, what is happening here? And like, it was a funny moment for my wife and I. So then when I'm like going through your Instagram, I'm like, this guy gets it. Yes.
Dude, for sure. Well, you know what's even more fascinating is if you leave them in there long enough in the freezer, because my kids did it as an experiment, the white part turns clear again. Cool. So like if you toss them in the freezer, they'll freeze, and I guess there's so much water in it that it like the pigment changes. So all of a sudden you've got this like clear frozen egg with the yellow in the center, and
real
you're like,
quickly,
what the heck is
that's
this?
freaking awesome. Yeah, and I saw that little snippet. I think I saw a statistic that like almost like 80,000 people within the state of California like withdrew from normal school. Like they're all homeschooling now. And so I saw that post between you and her wife talking about homeschooling. Sounds like she does the majority of the homeschooling. She really focuses on English and math. And I thought that was like very spot on. English being like, hey, one of the hardest things in the human experience is communication with others and being able to communicate into a very metaphorical, digestible fashion where what I say and what you hear are close in proximity, because it can be like hieroglyphics where it's hard to digest. And then math being just like, obviously numbers don't lie. And so like two very important things. But then what I just heard that you shared organically, which I thought was awesome, is that your kids put the eggs in the freezer as an experiment. Like that is a version of science, which is like, hey, we can trust the science, or we can go test the science and then create proof of concept. That's freaking cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a version of science. That is science. That's how science works. Like, you have to experiment. You have to put out a hypothesis. You have to experiment. Then you have to get results. And you go, okay, do these results match my hypothesis? And that is the foundation of all science. And so, yeah, our kids experiment constantly. And I think something I saw recently was talking about, like, there was a study they did that was centered around kids figuring things out. And essentially they had 3 different groups of kids. One where they told the kids, they gave them this like set of things to do, and they told them how to do all the stuff, and they left them to do it to see if they could get it done. One where they came in and gave them half the instructions of like, okay, this is the first half, and like figure out the rest. And then the next one where they gave them no instructions. They just left them in a room. They didn't tell them anything, and they just left one box of the things in the room. And it was like the kids who got no instructions found, like, on average, figured things out a lot better than the kids who got given half the instructions or all the instructions. It was just that organic sense of curiosity. And I obviously could be butchering that exact study, but it was like, that was the gist of it, is like, you want to give kids very little instruction and just say, hey, figure it out, like, and if they come and they're like, hey, what's this? Like, you can always help them. But like this freedom of like, I'm not going to give you any instructions. Here's some stuff. Here's a scenario you find yourself in, figure it out. I mean, that's what life is. Like this idea that we can curate. Yeah, it's FAFO for sure. But it's like, it's the purest form of FAFO. I mean, that's existence. Like, everything is FAFO, when we're teaching, all we're trying to do is guide people past like really traumatic experiences. Like, hey, can we not expose you to this kind of trauma, like the trauma of drinking and driving, like, and what that ends up happening on what can happen from that. Like, can we teach you how to not do that? Like, that's good, because like you're avoiding some big trauma, versus laying the path for them and saying this is where you walk. It's like, no. It's like, it's open field. Like, that's a forest. Go play. Figure it out. There's sticks in there.
That's one of my favorite analogies. We talked about it yesterday. My really good friend Ernest, who's here, we talked about like, hey, what's your like favorite quote right now? And I said, do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. And something about that is curiosity. Something about that is also critical thinking. And I think that first analogy that you gave in relation to that study is what's happened for the last 2 decades, maybe based on the Industrial Revolution, of like, hey, Pat, here's how you do the thing, here's why you do the thing, and here's how we make it repeatable or scalable so it can maximize its monetization. We don't really want you to think. We don't really care about your degree. We just want you to maximize the production here so we can monetize to the most. The second bit is kind of this, where most people are probably right now in the world, which is, I love the security, I love the paycheck, I love knowing I'm going to the same place, I sort of have a rule book to follow, but I also have this other thing. I'm living in the land of the messy middle, or the land of comfortable complacency. I'm not really lighting my heart on fire, but I'm doing this thing because I need to provide and protect for my family, and it makes me feel secure to do so. And the last realm that you explained is entrepreneurship. It's like, take the leap, jump in the ocean, figure out how to swim, go find your own food, figure out the weapons that you need to protect yourself, and go provide. And yeah, it's going to be really freaking hard in the beginning. But over the course of time, if you can figure it out, you unlock freedom, you unlock reservoirs of potential. And if you don't, you die. And it's like, that's an extreme, obviously, end-to-end spectrum. But it's like, the way you painted that, that's kind of what came to mind for me, that I thought was very relevant to the mindset of what a lot of people are probably going through right now.
Yeah, and I think where a lot of people struggle, though, is like, I think there's value in a 9-to-5 that supports a basic life. Like, if you have a 9-to-5 that is supporting your basic needs, and you're not looking outside those needs, like, you can find profound joy in doing the same thing every day, and then a lot of meaning in everything you do outside of that. Like, honestly, if I had a 9-to-5 that covered all of my basic needs, like, if it was possible for me to have the freedom that I do now and have a 9-to-5, that would be cool. But it's not. Like, it's just not. Like, I have so much freedom that in order for me to maintain this freedom, I need to be entrepreneurial in nature. And there's a there's a handcuffing that comes with that of like you're always on, but there is a freedom in the sense that I'm on however much I want to be, and my success or failure relies upon my own doings. So I don't know. I think it's just different levels of psychological tolerance, and I think that what you're willing to give up or what you're willing to have, like you can find meaning in any of it. Like I said, if you have a 9 to 5, you can absolutely find amazing joy and meaning and presence in the times, even while you're working, if you believe in what you're doing. But yeah, no, I think there's many different paths out there, and I don't think anyone needs to find themselves in any specific one, but I would examine, why you're doing what you're doing, and is it in alignment with your values and all of those other things. And I think a lot of people
that's
don't.
the big overarching theme is getting married to the concept of I need to pay bills and just make it to my pillow at night, but then pausing, self-reflecting in those bored moments, which nowadays they're few and far between. Like, put your phone away and have 10 minutes of just deep breathing, examining, like, hey, when I go to this place, how does that environment make me feel? When I spend time with this tribe or this community, how does that make me feel? Okay, when I make said choices, when I eat said food, when I do this type of movement, how does it positively, negatively, or just in a mediocre fashion impact my life? And am I living in alignment with, over here is maybe perfect life. This is the vision or the craft or the painting that you've created of like, oh, it'd be so good, or the must be nice if it was like this. And then reverse engineering that. Are my choices and my day-to-day habits in alignment with the life that I desire? And I feel like that's a fun experiment, since we talked about experiments.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like setting out like a value structure thing. And I think the beauty is like, you don't need to be set in stone with what that is. Like you sit down, you map out this perfect life, and then you could be working towards that and be like, never mind, I don't like this, and shift it. But if you haven't sat down and like seen what perfect would look like, and then are you taking the steps to live in accordance with that, I think that's where you run into problems. And I think a big thing that happens to people too is they go, this perfect life is so far away from where I currently am that this gap makes me feel either guilty or shameful or it's unachievable, or like I feel like I'm not living up to my potential. And it's like, bullshit, dude, just shorten the gap. Like say maybe this is my potential. This is what I would love to someday be doing. But then what's the smallest step that works me that direction? And then make sure you're acting on that step. If you say you want it over here, but you're not taking any steps, then you don't actually want it. Like, and you can find tiny little steps that you're able to do, whether it's wake up 10 minutes earlier, or whether it's, like you said, take 10 minutes of time away from your phone. And I think that's the real travesty that I see when you were saying that, is like 10 minutes away from your phone should not be something that you need to take. It should be something that's like that's a bare minimum, like while working, like like taking 10 minutes away from your phone. It should be like you get home from your thing. And like I said, I think the greatest travesty is like people who do the 9 to 5, then they come home and they absorb themselves in just being slightly stimulated by a bunch of stuff. And it's heartbreaking. Like there's some people who love it and they don't desire anything else, but I think there's going to come a point where they just go, why do I feel so hollow? Like, why does everything here feel so like, what's going on? My bills are paid. I'm like, but I'm not.
Yeah, there's something missing.
And it's like, you're not
start getting
living.
Curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a big spot for people. And just to kind of close that loop, I loved one of the reels that you made around, hey, if you said you were going to run a mile a day, right? Like we follow programs because we want to make a commitment to ourselves. And sometimes life gets in the way or whatever gets in the way. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we missed it yesterday, so we're going to run 2 miles today, and we start to punish ourselves. That happens with nutrition. That happens with mindset.
Yeah.
And I loved what you talked about, which is, hey, maybe you just need to run 800 meters that day. Maybe you need to run 400 meters in that day. And like the way I've always verbalized it is, maybe that mile is the high-hanging fruit. And, that's just too high. You don't have a ladder. You don't want to climb up. You fell last time you tried to get that high-hanging fruit. So it's like, Just get the low-hanging fruit in front of you. Deconstruct the ego. Be okay with a micro win. That's why I think Jordan Peterson always emphasizes, like, hey, make your bed. Get that first win. Joe Rogan always talks about first thing in the morning, getting that cold plunge. And it's like, it doesn't have to be super extreme, or it can be. It's just like, what are you willing to sustain? Because at the end of the day, the compliance is the science. And so I thought it was really cool that you helped, in some ways, like, give people's ego that permission, because I think a lot of people look up to you. And when you say, like, hey, sometimes I'm busy with life and I just need to go for a walk. Sometimes I need to run 200 meters, 400 meters. It doesn't always have to be that mile. And if you give yourself that grace that one day, across 365 days in a year, you're probably going to run a lot more miles than you are to be like, that's too far out of my reach. That gap's too big to fill. Screw it. I'll just chalk it up to next year, and I'll do a new year, new me, starting in 2027. And it's brutal, man.
Yeah. I mean, that post I made because is it Tactical Nutrition? Like the two girls who make the pretty like dry humor videos. They made a similar post, and it really struck a chord with me because I've been that guy. Like, I've been the guy who's like, if I miss today, then I'll do 2 miles tomorrow. And you're like, well, no, you won't. Like, you end up so far in a hole that you're like, I'll quit this challenge, And like, maybe you will the first time, but like eventually you just give up, and then you have these big periods of inconsistency, and you also carry guilt and shame around the fact that you're missing days, and now you're doing this, and you think you're hardcore, and it resonated with me because like that's what I actually believe is like you need to find something that's achievable for you to do in that moment and count it as a win. And it's not about the individual day. It's about the long-standing consistency. And that's actually a battle that I've had with training in general since I retired from competing is like being consistent. And in the last, I'd say year and a half, I've found a lot of consistency. Like I've just found an ability to be consistent in a way that I previously never had. And it's because of that exact principle of like, okay, well, I'm looking at the workout today. I just don't have it in me. I'll just start the first round. I'll do it with lighter weight, and I'll set a 10-minute timer. And no matter what, when 10 minutes is done, I'm done. Like versus, I need to get this thing that was programmed and written, which is a 35-minute workout with, crazy lifts and all these other things like at certain loads. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'll just get something in. And then another day when I'm feeling better, I'll get after it. But that consistency was that permission to do less. And not only permission, but like a celebration of the fact that you did something it struck me, which is why I remade that video and was like, you should do this. Like it's silly to punish yourself with more when you're already struggling to do less.
I remember in my early days when I was like trying to follow the outlaw way, and then I was trying to follow NorCal and then Invictus, and it was like I was at Valley CrossFit at the time, and I was trying to jump in with Chris Clever and Katie and Becca Voigt, and it was just like I willed myself through, but it was just like, you accumulate a lot of junk miles. You need that maybe in the early stages to kind of tickle that fancy and, get the different flavors that you don't know what you don't know. But over the course now of 15 plus years, tackling those things, different CrossFit Games experiences, I've come to realize that like fitness had me. I didn't have fitness. And like taking a day off, I'd like feel guilty. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to make it up tomorrow. And what I loved about just kind of the theme when I went through kind of your Instagram, your storytelling, and kind of what you're doing a great job sharing now as far as a narrative, Pat, is fitness is there to unlock reservoirs of potential for your life. And that to me is so cool. And this came full circle because I had a personal experience where I coached a gentleman who was in a base jumping accident. Parachute didn't deploy, smashed into the mountain a bunch of times, broke his spine into 353 pieces, ended up like smashing his shoulder, got a traumatic brain injury. And all of this ended up being a gift because he was about to have an aortic aneurysm and he didn't even know it. And so he ends up coming back from this And at the time I was coaching at Invictus, and he called every day, hey, can I come back? Hey, come back. And we were like, sorry, man, like you need a doctor's note. You need a doctor's note. And finally I was like, screw it, guys. Like I went to physical therapy school for a while. Like I think I can help him. We can microdose these things. I'll work with his heart doctor. We'll keep it safe. Like let's fuck around and find out. Let's see if we can help this guy. And so dude, day one, it was like he'd carry a med ball 400 meters, and it was just a 10-pound ball, and I would just like monitor his heart rate, and he'd come back. Like he couldn't get into a plank, he couldn't hang from a pull-up bar, we couldn't do any of those things, lower extremity stuff. Any kind of movement threatened the stitching from his open heart surgery. And so it was like I had to get really creative. But the guy just kept showing up. His communication strategy, the inputs were phenomenal, so I just like, hey, let's try this. Hey, let's try this. Hey, let's try this. Then all of a sudden, we got to the point in the conversation around like, hey, what are your goals? And he goes, I want to be able to do a ring muscle up before my 1-year anniversary of the accident. And in my mind, I just about choked. I was like, fuck, man, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. Like, shit. And so like, I mean, the reconstructive shoulder surgery, the TBI, broken back into 353 pieces, like spine or open heart surgery and the stitching, like. So the first goal was just like, can we get him doing a plank on his hands? Can we get him doing push-ups? Can we get him doing a ring support? Can we get him hanging from the pull-up bar? Can we introduce ring rows? Can we introduce strict pull-ups? Can we introduce kipping pull-ups? Can we play with toe to bar? Can we enhance his grip strength? Like we just started like microdosing these things. It's so funny because now he's become one of my best friends. And I didn't realize this at the time, because at the time I was like, I want to make CrossFit Games. Like the best goal is to maximize your human potential, blah, blah, blah. And I remember I asked him, his name's Brandon. He goes, I was like, Brandon, what's your goal? And he goes, I want to be able to do whatever the fuck I want, whenever the fuck I want to do it. And I was like, whoa. Mm-hmm. He was like, yeah, if I want to snowboard tomorrow, I can. If I want to go to Fiji and surf, I can. If I want to jump out of a plane, I can. And I was like, dang, that's actually the best goal that I've ever heard. And from that day forward, my life changed. And I don't even think he knew it at the time. And even right now, as we have this conversation, the dude is in Fiji surfing, having the time of his life after that, an experience like that in like 2015, 2016. And so it's like, I don't know, something about that. When you mentioned that, I was like, dude, that is so cool, because part of the consistency is in alignment with day to day, you're making knives, you're with your kids out in the garden, you're moving things out on the farm, like you're doing real life things. And what I want to touch on with you, Pat, to create like a perspective shift for people is that like training is awesome, but it's a fake creation of stress that is really from what's supposed to be life. And I want to hear your thoughts on that and share that with people so they can better understand that like training should unlock beauty in your life.
Yeah. Did we go over this on the last podcast?
We didn't touch on this too much. And then we also the other thing that I really want to go into is the masculinity chat and the fatherhood chat in relation to Chris Williamson, which is where I think we like ended strong on the last one. This little thing right here, it's pretty cool. One of our missions with ALLSMITH was to find affordable brands that we can partner with that seamlessly fit into people's day-to-day lifestyles. And the Kalo current ring absolutely does that. It's non-invasive. You can use it when you're doing any activity in life, and it keeps track of your data and helps with your steps, with enhancing your habits, with understanding your HRV, and most importantly for me and so many people in the world, keeping accountable with sleep. So check out the Current. That's pronounced Current, but spelled QRNT. And it's from my good friends and our new partner, Kalo.
Sure. Okay, so the fitness thing for me is a really special one because it's what I've been doing for the last 20 years. And what's been really interesting for me is CrossFit, if it gave nothing else to the world, it gave an empirically driven definition for fitness. So Greg has done a number of things, but the biggest contribution in my mind is not the CrossFit methodology, but it's fitness as a definition. And then the CrossFit methodology supports fitness as a definition. So Fitness, as defined by CrossFit, as you know, is work capacity across broad time and modal domains. And those words don't mean anything, but if we unpack it, work capacity is your ability to output power. Across broad time means any time frame, and modal domains means any activity. So can I output power across any time frame and any activity? And to say this in even simpler terms, to bring it back to exactly what you're saying, is it can I do whatever I want, modal domains, at whatever level that I want, power output, at however long I want, and then time domains. So you essentially, fitness is your ability to do whatever you want at whatever level you want for however long you want. And if you're more fit, you can do more things at higher levels. And if you're less fit, you can do less things at higher levels. And that's the entire reason we train. So it is the very core of CrossFit. And for years, like the best program to get us fit was CrossFit, constantly varied functional movements executed at high intensity. But for years now, people have misunderstood CrossFit, basically using it to get more CrossFit. Like, hey, can I be better at CrossFit? And it's like, no, that's not the point. Because CrossFit competition came about, we used it as a tool for basically specifying our capacity in being able to do CrossFit better. And I think that where I really differ from a lot of what I see out there in the world is like, the point is a higher quality of life. The point is the ability to say yes to life. The point is having like, just like your friend said, like, I want to be able to do whatever I want. I want someone to be like, hey, can we go hike Mount Kilimanjaro tomorrow? And you say, sure, let's go. Like there's nothing in the way of me doing that physiologically, and that's the entire reason that we train. And just like you stated there, and I've said it many times over, fitness is fake. All of these exercises we are doing, they are made up because our lives are not stressful enough physiologically to cause the responses for our body to adapt and become more genetically capable. So what we have to do is we have to fake stress, just like you said, in order for the body to respond so that it improves. And that's all training, whether you're training for physique or whether you're training for capacity. But the goal of what you're training for will change. Like, not the goal. Your goal, if you change your goal, should change the type of training that you're doing. So if your goal is to say yes to life, then you should do a different kind of training than if your goal is only to grow bigger biceps. So I think where I differ with a lot of people in the fitness industry is like, I don't think it's healthy for you to pursue looking better. I think it's actually unhealthy long term for you to be like, I want to look like this. That to me is a straight up dysfunctional mindset, and I'm happy to go into that. I think the best thing you can do is pursue, I want to live like this. I want to be able to do these things. I want to be able to say yes to life, and my physique will be supportive of that. And I'm going to do all the things in my power to be able to do that, and then my physique will be supportive of that. And I'll find my value and my worth in how I relate to people and my ability to say yes to life rather than how people perceive my physique.
Yeah, I think you nailed
which
that.
I think is a paradigm shift
is huge. The way you describe that is huge. And also for people listening, because I think last time, I had a different perspective entering our conversation. And, I did have some pushback around that. And the reason why is that I leaned into versions of the Thunder Bro, the Marcus Philly program, the functional bodybuilding, and just different versions of that. But what I thought was awesome, and I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for this, is that I think human beings should be malleable. If I'm on this side of the spectrum and you're on this side of the spectrum, we should hold space within the messy middle to be malleable in our perspective based on the thoughts and ideas from another individual. And I think oftentimes we can relate this to politics, we can relate to fitness, to food. People want to be on a team. They want to be tribal. Like, oh no, I'm this. and I sat with what you said, and honestly, it's been like living rent-free in my headspace for a while, and what I thought was so cool, and you actually just touched on it, which is beautiful. I related it just to my personal experience and my observation of some of the tribe that I spent time with, and it was like, oh, I was trained to get really good at CrossFit, I wasn't training to get really good at life. I was that guy. And it worked for a while until my value system changed, my body changed, and life just kind of shifted a little bit. And it's funny because in my attempt to try to defend, these other programs or whatever, I was like, whoa, Pat's actually right. I'm just doing CrossFit in a different way that supports my life now. And the capacity is actually better in my total life, but it's a little bit less in the gym, which for me in this season of life is necessary. And I love thinking of life in seasons that way, and not just in this like all or nothing, like this is the way it is. It's like, no, right now, like I just got married, I'm growing a business, like I'm trying to do different things. Like I actually want to put time over here in these things, and fitness and all these other value systems and strength and capacity and all kinds of joint range of motion and health and biomarkers are also very important to me because they unlock the ability to do the things everywhere else. And so I think like kudos to you, man. Maybe law schools in the future, but like you made your point. Like I thought it was really cool like to sit with that. And so like my brain was very malleable in thinking about that from our last conversation to now. And I think there's a ton of value in what you're saying, which is like you can have this beautiful physique, you can have all the abs in the world, but I think kind of what we alluded to before, there's still going to be a part of you missing. You're not fully indulged in the human experience because you're so focused on one thing. And so I want to kind of explore your mindset there a little bit, because for some people, they might think, hey, if I look this way, I'm going to get the desired partner, and then it's going to make my life better. And it's this ideology of like, oh, I'll be happy when. And I love the way you've spoken about it, and this is the way I think about it and speak about it too, which is I will become the human that's capable of responding to whatever stress or opportunity that presents itself. And like you said, that's a different paradigm shift. And I think if you're thinking, hey, if my biceps are the thing that's going to get me the desired thing in my life, your mental framework can potentially be readjusted. Not potentially, your framework should be readjusted.
For sure. And I think it's not even a black or white situation though, because I think fundamentally you have to love yourself. Like that has to be a thing for other people to really love you. And if you don't love yourself, then there is value in working towards loving yourself. So like if part of that is the way you look, then you should work on learning to love the way you look. And if part of that means getting slightly bigger biceps, I understand that part of the journey. Like I understand that, but where the real value is there is in the effort you put towards yourself, not the outcome of bigger biceps. And I hate to break it to you, but the ladies don't give a shit. like they don't really care. Even dudes, like if someone is valuing you purely based off of what you look like, and these micro differences in how you look are the deciding factor of whether or not they'll entertain you, then they're on their own journey of shallowness. Like that's the reality of the world we live in. So like, I do understand this obsession with physique and how it could be an appealing thing. But like you said, and like we're kind of going on here and alluding to, it's like you do have to love yourself, and to love yourself, you have to often take actions towards being the person that you want to be. And that could be physique oriented, but it's murky waters. It's not linear, and there's plenty of people with great physiques who don't love themselves, and there's a lot to grow on.
What I love is about how you've sat with this, because I'll give perspective on my lenses on something like big biceps. I don't really give a shit about big biceps. When I see big biceps, I think to myself, this person trains in some capacity. They're probably I'm observing symmetry. Maybe there's bicep, tricep, symmetry-ish. I'm like, oh, their tendon health at their elbows probably pretty healthy. Can they fully extend? Like, I'm like that guy that I'm like, if they're trying to live a high quality of life, it's like, If their biceps are so big, but their elbows stuck at 90 degrees, I'm like, okay, that's not that cool. But if they've got full capacity, that's telling me something about your habits. Those habits, then when you go deeper, you're like, okay, you make effort within your life to maybe do some pull-ups, maybe do some dips, maybe do some handstand push-ups, some barbell work. Maybe bicep curls are intermixed in that for a reason. Maybe there's, you're genetically blessed and your muscular insertion in around the elbow is super phenomenal. At the end of the day, like you said, if you're doing these things and it's unlocking the life that you desire and you have the capacity, joint range, you can do things that you love to do, the fitness is serving you. If you're doing it just to look a certain way and it's causing pain and dysfunction and you're having to smash Advil, ibuprofen, every peptide under the sun, and it's just like you're doing these things to really mask a psychological disorder of feeling insecure and not good enough, it's like that's the thing we should address. And that's not a knock, it's just an observation. And I think what I love about what you're doing with the Fathers Guild is that you're giving people the permission to be vulnerable and be like, hey, what are the things that are working? What are the things that aren't working? This isn't a knock. It's not to demonize or to weaponize your shortcomings. It's to note them as a data point so that way we can improve them on the other side of this experience. And that to me is kind of a full circle observation of how big biceps could positively impact your life. But if it's only about the biceps, like you said, you're missing some things.
For sure. And I want to kind of bring up again something you said earlier about seasons of life. I want to give people permission to, I think we all should be really self-absorbed at some point in life. I think you have to. I think most of us as men do that when we're younger and ideally we mature out of it. But I think there's other men who were so selfless through their life. They've sacrificed everything for the world around them and need to be more self-absorbed later in life. So they learn how to take care of themselves. So those seasons aren't linear, I don't think, but I do think that they're, I hope that everyone at some point in their life has I am just thrashing the gym 5 days a week and being super aggressive with my nutrition and really almost dysfunctional level of attention to detail to everything that you're doing. I hope that everyone has some year or two of their life where they do that to get perspective on what that looks like so they can step back and then place that. Because I think if you've never done that, if you've never prioritized yourself like that, you don't have the perspective. So I do see value in people going through this because I think it's a stage. I think it's something that you have to experience and be like, I'm genuinely going to learn everything I can about this subject, and I'm going to make strong opinions, and I'm going to do all this stuff, and then I'm going to be like, oh, those were wrong, but I think you have to. So I think some people find this as fathers, much later in life where they're like, oh, this is my gym time, and they train for 2 hours a day and they prioritize it and they go for it, man. As long as it's not, you're not raising your kids because of it, but and then for me and probably you, we did that when we were in our prime years, the 20 to 30 years. So we maximized genetic potential in very, very prime years. So we can actually ease off the gas pedal quite a bit and still be in a pretty damn good place and recognize the folly of our youthful ways. But I do think that there's these seasons that if you haven't fully dug in to nutrition, training, and sleep and made your life about those things, so sleep being recovery, and that can be a larger subject too. So nutrition, training, and recovery. If you haven't made your life about, if you've never made your life about those things, you owe it to yourself at some point in your long 100-year life to spend one of those years digging in, just so you have the tools to forever fall back on that. And ideally you don't do it disordered and you get a coach and do all these other things. But I do think that it's a worthy pursuit. Do you mind if I change the script a little? And I want to ask you something, and it might be a little confronting. Okay. So I want to I want to ask you, and I'm going to say this as a person who's known you for a long time, but from a distance, right? You have seemed very curated in your presentation. And I don't mean that as an insult, but like in the way you present yourself, like how you take care of yourself, how you dress, your Instagram account, all of the posts you have there, they seem meticulously to put forward an image. And to me, it feels similar to somebody who wants to be perceived a certain way versus whether or not they are that way. And in my recent conversations with you, I feel like you're actually more becoming that you are that man versus like, I want people to perceive me that way. And I want to know, where does that level of detail to those types of things come from for you? And is that real, or am I placing those values on you? Because it's very curated, the image that you have, even like ALLSMITH and like the relation to the name and like the succinctity with which you speak, and like I'm or the background that you have, the whiskey room and the
no, Pat,
like,
it's a phenomenal question. And it's something I've toggled with over the years, where it was just this lostness after basketball. What's next? And then was very fortunate to find CrossFit. And then within the CrossFit space, I think lost myself a little bit. And I think it wasn't until losing my parents where I was like, I don't really give a fuck about the image anymore. Whatever it was, I don't really know exactly where it came from. I think it was a little bit of a people-pleasing component, where it was like, oh, if I do things this way, I will get love in return. I'll be able to get more clients.
Sure.
I will be able to, in some ways, unlock a level of freedom, because it's like I could tell that I liked to group coach a little bit, but I actually really loved the personal connection, which stemmed specifically from an experience in Sweden, which is called fika. And that's a traditional coffee break in America. Is like, hey, Pat, let's hit some caffeine real quick and let's go make money, or let's go hit that content or that workout or whatever. In Sweden, it's like, hey, how are you? How's your well-being? Like, how's your sleep? Like, are you actually happy and fulfilled doing what you're doing? And so I think you're spot on. I think I was trying to live up to some sort of potential for a really long time. And it wasn't until really losing my mom, where we had, like, I had deathbed conversations with my dad back in 2018, but I was still like trying to live the Invictus thing. I was still trying to make the CrossFit Games. It still felt like a stuckness of, hey, if I don't do this thing, I'm not going to get loved in return. And I don't know where that stemmed from. And then the beauty of it all, Pat, was when my mom passed, I actually hired a healer to understand my inner child. Which is another reason why I love what you're doing with the Fathers Guild, because it was like, I had to understand me. Like, even when I first started the podcast, I was genuinely really curious about people, but it was still underneath the branding of Invictus Mindset. So it was like, I felt like I had to like do it in alignment with their value system and this thing and that thing. And like, I just wanted to be, as Ted Lasso would say, more curious than judgmental. I wanted to have hard conversations. Yeah. Some of those I wanted to be around fitness. Some of them I wanted to be around just life and how you thought as a human being and how you navigated adversity and the peaks and the valleys of challenges that you've gone through, which were the real conversations that I had with my parents. And where ALLSMITH came from was just chatting with my mom in the ICU. And she was just like, and I said this on a recent podcast, she literally never cussed. Like, my mom was always like, Bryce, work the job, like, stay there, make it work. Like, don't ruffle too many feathers. Like, keep doing what you're doing. And then when she went to pass 3 days before, she goes, Bryce, cut the fucking bullshit. You have this song inside. Like, you just need to go do it. And she was like, you're the person that just, like, you show up. And based on showing up, you understand that you're either going to be in adversity, just left it, or you're approaching it. She was like, we're like ALLSMITHs. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, that's the thing. And so that's how we curated the brand based on, you know, part of your conversation. But I think now, like, really just unlocking, spreading my wings a little bit, dude, I think it's a great observation. I felt that way for that decade in that space where I felt like this, that it was just like trying to curate something. And now it's gotten to the point where it's like, I don't know, it feels really playful. I think my wife's helping unlock like real versions of me behind the scenes. But it's also just like phenomenal intuition on your end. And like, I'm not afraid to share it or talk about it either, because it's something that I battled as a human for a really long time. And huge shout out to my healer and my coach, Justin, who I speak with and connect with often, who's helped me better understand certain things about me and my inner child and my journey leading up to this point. And so I really appreciate that question, man. It makes me really feel seen and understood. And I appreciate it, man, and happy to answer any other questions that come to mind around that topic.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you sharing all that. I think it has been interesting for me to watch from afar and even in the interactions I had with you, because I never felt like you were inauthentic, like in my interactions with you. So like, I felt like there was an authenticity to everything that you did, and it was a part of you, but but there were other parts of you that weren't there. And that was what was interesting to me, is I was like, I would spend time with you and I'm like, no, I like this guy. Like, I think he's got a lot. And then my brain would be like, but I think he wants to be seen a certain way. And so it mattered how you were perceived versus just like, no, you're fucking good, Bryce. Like, you don't need to do anything. Like, you're loved and cared for, and you're great. You're a good contribution to this world. You don't need to just show this side. So it's been cool to watch from afar and to hear all that and the growth that you're going on. I'm sure it's not done.
It's a constant refinement for sure. I mean, I'm curious on this with you is, the framework that I think in my mind is like fitness and wellness kind of is in the center of the wheel. And then I think about like faith, family, fitness, finances, and fun. And all those freaking F's. And I've also added fashion into that, because I just think like certain style is kind of fun. Like,
I don't have it, so I can't
actually disagree. Like, when I first observed CrossFit, I think I told this to you before, like you had like the high socks and the beard. Like, to me, it looked like you were having fun.
For sure.
And so like, I wanted to dress like having fun. Also, I thought you had a look of like, growing up, I always tried to be like a skater, and I was fucking terrible with my feet, but great with my hands. So I was like good on the Razor scooter, but terrible as a skater.
I'm so proud of you for admitting that.
Like even to this day, like my friends make fun of me because horrible surfer living in San Diego for over a decade. I love boogie boarding though. Being able to use my hands, like I'm super
sponge that brain out, bro.
100%. I get called all of those things, the kook, all the things when I'm like taking a wave in front of a surfer. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm not really sorry, but I'm sorry.
Have you watched that Eastbound and Down
I gotta
clip
see it.
where he's like, he paddles out on the boogie board at the surf spot, and he's like, "What's up, a bunch of kooks?" And he's like, "No, I'm just kidding. We're all part of the same tribe." And the guy's like, "Get out of here, you fucker." He's like, "Yeah, I'll get out of here. Soak up all these." No, he's like, "Get out of here, you sponger." He's like, "Yeah, sponge up all these." What does he say? Sponge this whole ocean up with these balls, funny. And like something like that. And then he cuts this surfer's leash. It's so good. On. Like it. But anyway, so
it's just funny to like think about being so dexterous with hands and like all those things, and like that's what I admired about you. Is I thought your fashion in CrossFit was like, dude, I'm doing this because I like to skate, I like to surf, like I liked that translation, and then I seen how you got in the mountains and stuff. Like that's what we did as a kid. Like we didn't go on fancy vacations. We got lost in the mountains for 7 to 10 days, and to this day, like I still do that. But the thing that's interesting is like I think of that spoke in the wheel. And I think for a long time, man, I thought like, man, I made it as a basketball player. I sort of made it in CrossFit. Like my way worked until like life really started to happen. And like there was a while, and when I say happen, for probably about 5 years or so, I viewed as life happening to me and not for me. And that was like a victim mentality that I'm not proud of, but I'm thankful I went through it to now better understand it. And it was like loss of parents, UCL injury, catching a snatch on the left elbow, where it was like, man, I'm trying to still train with my friends and snatch and do all the things, but it's like a chest to bar pull up and a ring muscle up really just destroys this elbow. And then thinking from like a biomechanical perspective, it's like, I had like the Josh Bridges lack of full extension. So then I just like kept trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and I'm like shrugging my shoulder, and then I was getting like neck issues. And so like eventually I got to the point where I'm like, man, like I don't know if this is working anymore. And then went through like a pretty horrific breakup that was kind of in the CrossFit space that like, you know, created a lot of just like emotional challenge where I just felt so lost. And it wasn't until I surrendered, Pat, and was just like, hey, my way is not working. And I had a client and a friend that was just like, hey, man, you want to come to church with me? And like he just started sharing with me scripture. And I pushed back against a lot of it. And then like he told me the story of Job, just kind of overcoming a ton of adversity. And I just felt related to that. And then I kind of just started looking at the world differently. And I was like, so much of this feels made up. It feels like you said, like kind of curated. The Bible kind of seems like the thing that holds a semblance of truth. And I just got really curious about it. And, you know, I know it's not for everybody, but that's the thing that started to create a little bit more structure for me, where it's like you said, whoa, you actually have permission to just be you. You can learn to love you. You're not loved for what you do. And I think that's ingrained in many men, and I think it was in me for a while, which is I'm not loved for Bryce. I'm loved for what Bryce can do on the basketball court or in CrossFit or as a coach or whatever. It took a while to reorient that and learn that about myself. And it wasn't until I learned that, and I'm still learning that I even met my wife. I wasn't the man ready for her until I could become that man. So I think it's very astute of you to kind of bring this up, because I think it's something that should be unpacked for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think your journey towards the Bible is a really great one. I think it's a very common story for people who find themselves lost in that sort of way and are seeking truth. And I think what's beautiful is you were curious, right? You pushed back, but then you were curious, and then that curiosity led to like a genuine like reflection of the things and the finding of the truth through it. Like I'm not a religious person myself, but there are so many great metaphors and fables and truths, so to speak, in the Bible, you know, like, and depending on how deeply you believe, those things are literal words of God, you know, like, and if you can buy into that and believe that in that way, that they're profoundly life-changing. And so to find that guide and be in a place where you are curious enough to accept it is huge. And I think that curiosity has probably driven you to have some of the best growth you've had in your life. Like over the last little bit is like even the curiosity about self, like why do I do this? Like, why am I perceiving myself? And that's something that I've always had, is this like natural curiosity around like, well, why are these things happening this way? Like, I'm contrarian by nature. I like to challenge stuff. So like when something gets thrown at me, the first thing I want to do is like, nah, and like poke holes at it. Like that's my favorite thing to do. But then I want to go like, okay, well, let's like, as I've matured, it's been like, well, let's unpack what that means. Let's go deeper and go like, well, why did I initially poke at it? Like, why can't I have just like seen it for what it is and then take it on board? Where does that fit in my level of understanding? Like, and that exploration is that's what I find joy in these days, is like, I have very strong beliefs, but they're not so strong that I can't see past them to greater truths, you know? And like, that's what I'm trying to go through the world with, is like, I feel like I've got a lot of stuff pretty well dialed, and my level of okayness relative to my peers tells me that I am on the right track, you know, like, and which is why I even create the content that I do and try to put stuff out there for men and fathers, because I'm like, I'm loving this process. Like, it doesn't mean I don't have struggles, but I'm loving this. Like, I want you guys to love it too. Like, how do we get you to love it? And like, but that curiosity and that exploration, just like you went on, it's like, there's so much to be had there. There's so much if we let down our this is who I am sort of deal, and more like, ooh, these are some core beliefs I have, like, I'm really malleable. This is malleable. This is malleable. Like, in a lot of ways, like, what am I trying to do? Am I trying to be effective? Am I trying to be dominant, like in sport? Or am I trying to be loving? Am I trying to be strong? Like, why am I trying to be strong? Like, there's endless questions. So like, if you have curiosity, there's there's a lot you can do with it. And I'm stoked to hear you on your journey with that, man.
It's been a really,
it
really
sounds like you're in a good place
to explore. What allowed you that level of curiosity? Like the way you observe the world, are there books that you've read? Is it time that you've spent in nature? Like what allows you to have that empath component to yourself? Like even the content that you've posted around like showing a movement around like jump and land when you're showing the push jerk. And you're talking about like, yeah, just put your hands on your shoulders. Like very simple things that are digestible to the consumer, but you do it in a way that's very relatable. How have you allowed yourself to learn some of those things? Is it books you've read? Is it just the way you think about it? Or is it how you observe nature? Like how has that been like updated across your life?
I think there's layers to that. I think the first layer is, I believe the very core of it is I was unconditionally loved by my parents, and I knew that. So like there was unconditional love there. Like there was not like, oh, you need to be this way or get this grade or do this thing. It was like, no, they loved me. I get that. You know, they weren't perfect parents. They got divorced when I was 11, and I put up some walls and shields and still have a contentious relationship with my mother and with my father sometimes too. And it's like, they're not perfect, but I know at a core level, like spiritually, I know that I am loved by my parents. Like that's not up for question. No matter how bad I am, no matter how good I am, no matter how fat I am or how successful athletically I am, I'm loved by my parents, right? So I think that gives me a foundation and an openness to being wrong. And I also grew up not being very scholastically intelligent. And what I mean by that is like school was very difficult for me because I have a bit of a attention stuff, and sitting down and writing and doing homework and those kinds of processes were very difficult for me. And I was objectively one of the lowest performers in my entire class when it came to grades. And that imprinted itself in my head as like, you're kind of dumb, you know, like that's what you are. You know, you're loved, but you're kind of dumb. So like for me, it was like, well, I need to make things simple in order for me to understand them. And as I spent more and more time, and like in the fitness space, it's a really interesting one. I've been doing CrossFit for 22 years. I've been listening to some of the smartest people I know regurgitate the same information over and over and over and over again to where it's like, it's in my blood. And then I challenge that information and I challenge it again and again and realize, oh, I had this hole here. And every time I like push on something and find more depth, I'm like, whoa, look at this. Like I learned some new stuff. So holding on to the ideas wasn't as valuable as pushing and going deeper. So I've had all of these reinforcing experiences of making things simple, being wrong, and then learning that like being wrong's fine. I'm going to be okay no matter what. I'm going to be curious. And I don't know. I work at all, like, so I think it's just been a life experience, like lots of life experiences that accumulated to me trying to make things really simple because I think that's the way I best understand them, but also having the confidence and the base of I'm loved no matter what to being able to make all these mistakes throughout life and not break. But I would say that is what I'm good at. I'm not going to lie. Like I'm good at making complex things simple because that's who I am. Like that's, I was reading through this book and it was like, identify yourself as something. And it had these different phrases. And I'm like, I'm a student of life. I learn and I teach. That was one of the phrases. And I was like, I like that. I think that's who I am. Like I learn more complex things and the more intelligent I get and the longer I go in life, I can take more and more complexity and make it simpler and simpler for more people to understand because that's what I do. That's what I'm good at. And I think it was those scenarios that kind of like led me like a perfect storm of events to where now, you know, fitness is so simple for me. Like understanding and articulating any fitness concept to people, nutrition or fitness, that's a breeze. Like that, it's such a breeze that it's not challenging anymore, and I don't find as much joy in it. which is why I ventured into parenting, because parenting is so complex and I don't fully understand it. Like, I've got a good firm grip on a lot of what I'm doing, but like, I don't fully understand it. I mean, I've been a parent for 13 years, but I'm not as studied in it the same way I am in, fitness and nutrition. So this is why I've dove into this realm, because it's fascinating to me to be so wrong about so many things and to be on the process of trial and error and the science and the experiment of it. Like, yeah, I appreciate your observation, and I agree with what you said. Is simplicity is what I am good at, and I think that those, if I were to think about it, are the reasons that I do that well.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal explanation. The thing that's so fascinating to me about this is that, like, zooming out, if you were to look at like the measurable of school, the outcome wasn't to the grade. So all of a sudden people could potentially label you as like, oh, you're not going to be good at this. But because you had the unconditional love and the true belief, you're like, no, screw your opinion. I'm just going to do it this way, which I think is so rad. And it bleeds into the contrarian nature too, which is so fascinating too to me, because I like disagreement. It's fun for me. I love playing back and forth. I think it's part of this journey that I've been on, which is, in my opinion, the most successful people are comfortable having hard conversations. And it's what has made like my marriage so phenomenal, is like, we're not afraid to have those hard conversations. And every time it deepens our roots, which I appreciate. But most people view contrarian nature as like, oh, you're disagreeable, you're not in alignment with me, this person just doesn't get it, I'm going to create distance. How do we create buy-in with people to want to play in the land of, like you said, pushing back on things, poking holes in them? Because it might just simply be like, I don't get it. I don't understand what you're saying, or I don't understand it to the level that you understand it. So it makes me feel some sort of inadequacy. So I'm just going to do this and distance, but I want people to lean in more.
I think that is actually on our shoulders, Bryce. I think it's as, and you might have experienced this. So I'm contrarian by nature, and I never was uncomfortable in conflict. Like, if you want to fight with me, I'll fight with you. I'll fight with you in front of 200 people. I will do it in really inappropriate times, and I will say everything that's on my mind, and it'll be right there. I'll do it. I called out the CEO on the giant CrossFit call one time, being like, this doesn't align. Why are we doing this?
Yes.
and nothing about that. It just and got multiple people messaging me after being like, what the fuck was that, man? I'm like, dude, he was so like, anyway, what we have to do, you and I, is learn how to temper that and speak lead with curiosity and genuine curiosity rather than lead with conflict. Because I think it's easy for someone who doesn't care about conflict, like doesn't feel uncomfortable with conflict, to just put their other point out there, to just like throw it out and be like, what about this? Because it doesn't bother us. But it causes, like you said, a lot of people to turn away and be like, nope, I don't want that. And they don't go into the thing. But if you actually have matured as somebody who's in that place, you can get to a place where you can question and you can be curious. Like, you could have in your heart the thing that you want to say is like, you're dead fucking wrong, I disagree. But instead of saying that, which is what I said when I was a kid, you say, huh, okay, I see what you're saying with this part. I validate part of what they're saying. But what about this part? Like, I genuinely don't see how that makes sense here, And then they go, well, let me explain that. And you go, yeah, but if that's the case, then what about this? And so you're drawing out of them like an idea of shifting their mindset, right? Rather than just have the conflict and go. Like, current politics is a good example of non-resolving conflict. Two people who have differing opinions, who like are not trying to actually solve the conflict. They're just trying to spout their opinion. Like, that's why politics is so enraging, is like, you didn't even listen to what the other guy said. You're not genuinely curious. You're just yelling and trying to yell over the other person. So I think, to answer your question, is how do we get more people to to be okay with conflict is those of us who are okay with conflict need to take people who are not okay with conflict and actually be curious. And maybe there's something in our minds that could change. Just like you said, like you and I are both this type of person. So you were open though to maybe it not being exactly as you thought. So you walked away and you came back and you're like, you know what? I see what you were saying. And I think I actually agree with you. But that took me not being like, Bryce, you're an idiot. What a piece of shit. Like, Like it was more, we have to be softer. And like, as weird as that sounds, like those of us who are okay with conflict, I think have to be softer in order to meet people where they're at. And then you could make the argument on the other side is like, on the other side, if you want to get better as a human, you got to be a little harder. Yeah. You got to be able to withstand an immature, conflict-oriented person to really hear what they're saying and be like, this is not about me. This is about them, you know? So I think that there's both sides of the coin that we can work on. But as you and I, Bryce, who don't struggle with conflict, we have to learn to be softer. And I think relationships are a great place to have this be like, you get the most positive outcome from this. Like if you can go into your relationship with your wife and you can be softer in your disagreements as the generally harder person and really be open to the other side being correct, then you will resolve conflicts. And it's not about not having conflicts. It's about resolving them in a different way where you both feel seen and heard and validated. And so that requires a different setting for different partners. And I think that that's where we can make some serious magic.
Spot on. The thing that's I'm thinking about right now is that maybe you experience this in sport a little bit, but as a basketball player, dude, I used to get cussed out all the time. Like grab my jersey and just like cussed out. And it's kind of funny to me. Yeah. Like, cause to me, like it's like noises coming from a mouth.
Yeah. You're like, doesn't matter. That's not about me. That's you.
And then like in my mind, like it was like, I would get punished cause I'd have like this little smirk on my face as a little kid, just like, okay, you're upset because I had a turnover. Like, I'll just do better the next play. It's fine. But what's funny is not everybody views it that way. And so it's important to note, I heard a quote yesterday that the thing that ruins more relationships than cheating is tone. And that's something I've really had to learn because, like, I'm such a logical human. So you can say whatever you want to me, and I'm hearing the context, which is why, to bring it back to the first part of our conversation, I'm like, the style is kind of cool, but, like, I want to hear what Pat has to say. But it's like, I get it. And then reframing that into the context of relationships and marriages, I've had to learn that, where I'm like, I might have a short tone or something, but in my mind, it wasn't like malicious. It was just like context and logical verbiage. And learning from my wife, like, hey, I really didn't like the way you said that. And I realized like what I said was not heard or responded to because my tone was inappropriate. And that's something that like is so beautiful about this podcasting space. Like even going back to the image and the things that I have had to learn and outgrow, it's like you don't even realize it. Like when you're in it, and it's something like when you're so forward and you like are videoing all the things, you have to like watch yourself in all these iterations. And you're just like, fuck, I sucked. Fuck, oh, I got a little better. Yeah. Oh yeah. But what are your thoughts on that concept of tone? Because you've probably seen it a lot in coaching. It's like, you're a fucking idiot. You should have done this, and this. But it's just like you change that perspective, you change that communication strategy, and all of a sudden it lands in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think, well, there's a fascinating thing about memory and tone. So memory and how you remember something is directly linked to how you felt in the moment. So two people could remember the same scenario, both be correct about how they felt. And one person says, you were really mad when you said that. And the other person says, I wasn't really mad when I said that. And they're both right. But the way it's going to imprint on the person's memory who was not in a good place is different than the person who was in a good place. And and so memories are a fascinating one. Oh, you said that to me like this. And my funny one is when my wife always repeats the words I said back to her and how she repeats them. And I'm like, I didn't say it like that. And she's like, oh, yes, you did. And I'm like, okay, and we just and we can't fight the semantics of whether or not I said it that way because that's what she heard. So obviously that's the most important thing to me is how she heard it, not how I said it. But if I'm petty, then I'm going to hang on and be like, I didn't say it like that. Da, 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 da. And then it starts another fight. And you're like, well, that's dumb. So exactly what you're speaking to there is like, sometimes we don't say stuff that is actually tonally that different. But because of the way they were feeling in that moment, it's going to be perceived different. So we would have had to have been 10 times softer in order for it to have been heard the way we wanted it to have been heard. But other times, we will have said stuff in a different way than we thought, like, because we would be thinking about something or feeling something and say something that comes out way harder than we mean it to. And I found that a lot with my kids, actually. So, and the way I found that out was by filming myself and then watching the video in post-production. And I've got a couple videos on my channel like this where, like, you can see me respond to my kids, and I'm like, holy shit, that is harsh. Like, and in the moment, I wasn't being harsh. I wasn't being like, get this done. I was just being like, dude, come on. Like, like in my head, it was like exasperation, but you watch it on video and you're like, that sounds like anger. And there's unresolved shit there of like things that I'm thinking. So that even the world that we're talking about, it's like not clean. It's like there's muddy water on both sides. So I think what we can do is absolutely try to, if we are a generally more logical and harder person, this goes back to my other thing I said, we have to try to be softer. Like unless we're trying to hurt the other person or trying to get them on edge, which I will occasionally do, but not with my family. I like to do this with turds. Like I like that I find in life. I will poke at those bears just because like I don't know why, but I think it's just an immature part of me that still likes to do it. But I think a lot of people, like especially in our close relationships, we can get so comfortable with them that what's underneath kind of bubbles out. So we have to pull back. And I totally agree with you, coaching wise. What you say matters, but how they hear it matters more. And that's why I actually used to give this cue where it's like, and you see this from some coaches and just in the raw coaching spaces, some people treat the people as the problem. So all of their framing is as though this person's a problem. So the things that they're thinking is like, this person's a problem and I need to fix them. And then other people view the movement out of position as the issue. Hey, this movement is an issue. Like this like the person's not an issue. I'm not going to talk to you like you're a problem. We're going to address the issue of your lack of range of motion because the lack of range of motion is the problem. And that conversation hits differently of like, and the intent behind it hits differently. And so the communication hits differently. And I think that's a level of context that a lot of coaches don't really initially see. But as you've coached for 20 years, you start to realize that the depth is there. Like treat the individual instances as the problems, not the people.
If people get nothing from today's conversation, that right there is a gem. I think it's a customized approach to really meet people where they're at. And I think sometimes, especially as like a young coach, you're coming in with, just finished all these certifications. You want to word vomit about the movement. And then maybe you've been in the space for a while and you know this person and you know their habits, and like that starts to bleed into the lenses and how you communicate with them. And it's really getting to know what gets the person to tick, when they need to be pushed, when they need to be pulled, and when you honestly... One of my favorite things that I'm learning now in running a business is sometimes my role is just to get out of the way. I am the bottleneck sometimes. Yeah. And that's been another whole other learning lesson when you crave control and trying to play with the sticks and all the time. She doing pottery? Let's go.
No, this is my little one came in. Come over here, Rue. Come say hi.
Is that your garage, by the way? Is that just like the man cave, or what you got going on there?
Yeah. Yeah, this is my garage. This is my little like home gym garage area. I got my I got my gym here. I got my workstation here. My wife's little pottery wheels and stuff are over here. I got my surfboards on the wall there. I built a little like game room like area up above for my boys. And then, yeah.
That's cool. We've crafted just a little man cave in our garage too with like a couch, TV. We got like a little mini ping pong table in there. We've got, have you ever played Can Jam before? We played Can Jam before.
Yeah.
That's fun. And then we've got the sauna cold plunge in the backyard. And then my wife created this like, we call it like the little outdoor oasis. So that's kind of like there's a prayer area, meditation area, and she calls it like her little restaurant. The next thing is trying to put one of those portable projectors out there to like watch some stuff and have some fun, like invite people over. Like,
nice.
Yeah, we definitely have seen some of the cool things you guys have put together. Oh, I can see him now back there hanging out.
Yeah. This is his favorite stuff to do is bounce around in the fitness bands.
Dude, what's going on with the Father's Guilt? I want to like create a better picture for people to better understand that, because I think that work is very special. It's very meaningful. I think the contrast of, like we talked about already, the hard and the soft is really important. And I think most men come in and they're like, I'm unbothered. I don't talk about feelings. I just get the job done. And it's like, that's not the best. And then, obviously like word vomiting, I'm a victim. Like I've been both guys before. And so it's like learning how to contrast. That's why I love the analogy of the sauna and ice. I love the analogies of fitness and mindset and breath work and speeding up and slowing down and just... I want to hear about your methodology around that and how you create the space for men to come learn and evolve.
Sure. Number one, I live it all. And I think that's one of the things that like I'm in this process. Like I'm the one who's going through it. And I feel like I'm in such a good place, and I'm constantly examining why I'm in a good place. And I'm like, why am I doing so good? And like, that doesn't mean I'm without challenges. Like I have plenty of days where I sit there and I just like head in my hands, like the weight of the world is on my shoulders. What do I do? But that lasts like a day, and then I've got a month of being great, and I'm working my ass off the whole time. But, so part of it is that I live it, and everything that I'm thinking, I try to put forward. And I get a fraction of what I'm thinking about put into the actual Father's Guild social accounts. Like on my computer, I have about 300 clips of content that I could put out. I just don't have time to edit it all and post it. It's like, it's wild how much my brain is in this space right now of being like, oh, what about this? Okay, put this. What about this? It's like, and it's just constant. And it's obscene. Like I don't understand. I think it's like ADD superpower stuff where it's like, it's so focused on this task of improving fathers that it's just not letting go of like every opportunity to find a little tidbit it could give. So that's a fascinating place to be. But in general, what I've come to do is I was trying to figure out what to actually offer men. Like what could I actually do other than just give you my thoughts? And the first thing I built was the retreat. And I know that if I get you in front of me and I can spend time with you and I get you unstimulated and off grid for a little bit, I can get you to think and go deep and work on yourself. So I knew that was the case. And I ran those retreats last year and they were great. And I'm running them again this year. I have one at the end of this month. Would love to have you sometime, Bryce. It'd be awesome. Great. They're wonderful. And I'm like, so, but what do I offer in like a digital space? And so what I kind of like did was like, I was like, okay, what are the components of the treat that are really great? One of them is a lack of stimulation. So how can we get you to have a better relationship to your phone and devices and technology in general? So that's one thing. Another one is a sense of challenge and reflection. So I was like, the way I've done most of my own growth is I really want to change X, Y, or Z. And then I go, okay, well, what would it take to change X, Y, or Z? And I go, okay, well, what's the smallest step I could take to commit to and to work towards this person? And then I do that thing for like a month or 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. And like a lot of these are physical challenges or personal development challenges or whatever it might be. And I've done this over years to be the guy that I am right now. So I was like, well, what if I created a challenge that was like that? It's like a personal development challenge. That's a cyclical thing. You just kind of keep going through it. That sets up some basic standards, and then you keep doing these challenges. And so I created something called the Hero's Journey, which is essentially like the classic literary tool of the hero's journey. And it starts with a call to adventure, and then the refusal of the call, and then the acceptance of the call, then find a mentor, then the challenge, then death and birth, and like
sounds
all
like
of these
the
things
journey
coming
I shared
back
with you
into
today.
Exactly. It's exactly the same thing. But this is the literary tool that's like in every hero that you've ever heard of, like Luke Skywalker, Indiana Jones. Like this is the journey they go through to come out the other side with the reward, which is like a different version of you. And so I was like, well, why don't we that's the journey I've been on over and over again in just different areas of my life. So what I did is I made the hero's journey, and I set it up as like a contract. And it's like, I used what's called the SPIRE method, SPIRE, which is a method for happiness. We might have talked about it on the last episode, but like it's spiritual well-being, physical well-being, intellectual well-being, relational well-being, emotional well-being. So, and the idea is that you pursue real happiness and contentment by tangentially pursuing happiness and contentment. You don't pursue happiness and contentment, you pursue these things. And when you're satisfied across, and you have capacity and kind of ability in these different areas, then you are happy and joyful. And so we use those as frameworks, spirituality being meaning and purpose, physicality being physical health and well-being, intellectual health being psychological, like your feeling of a capacity to do and say yes to things. Emotional is obviously your psychological well-being and how you can control and feel the full spectrum of emotion. And then relational is what is your communication like in your relationship to your world. Hold on, let me let this dog in. It's barking its brains out. What do you want?
How many dogs do you have? Nice.
We have 4.
One for each kid.
4 dogs, and we just got an emu, which is wild.
Dude, that's awesome.
So I take those areas, and I created about 75 or 65 challenges that are in, like 10 of them are in each one of those areas essentially. And the hero's journey is you sign this contract where you commit to 5 like non-negotiables. And the 5 non-negotiables are: 1 is own your morning, which is you wake up an hour before your responsibilities and you spend none of that time on a device. You can read, you can write, you can breathe, you can train if you wanted to, you can sauna, you can cold plunge, but you have to own your morning. And in that time, you're doing nothing, like no stimulation other than those things. And so you wake up an hour before your family. The other one is extreme honesty with yourself and the world. So whatever you're doing, whether you're thinking or talking about yourself, you have to be honest. And whether you're writing and being with the world, like you just have to be honest, because I think it's the foundation for actual real growth. Until you're honest, you're kind of stuck. The other one is own your evenings. We call it a digital sunset. So after dinner, you have to turn off all devices, and you can't go back on your devices unless you're like a doctor or something where someone's going to die if you don't have access to it. If you're just like a businessman and you're going to lose a deal, it doesn't matter, unless it's going to prevent your family from eating. But if you're making plenty of money, like turn your shit off, you're fine. So you have a digital sunset, own your mornings, honesty. Then there has to be accountability, and you can have accountability to this app I have called Buddy, which is like an AI tool which has conversations with you, and you set your accountability thing. Or you can be accountable to a friend, and there's an ability to send this and be accountable to a friend, or be accountable to a group and do it as a group. And then the other one is no reactive speech. So reactive speech is basically not having a gap between when something is happening and how you respond. So you can't yell at your family. You can't immediately defend yourself. You can't do all these things. The goal is to basically, whenever things start to get heightened, you have to take a gap and take a breath and then figure out a way to respond differently. And if you have reactive speech, you end up having to say, I'm sorry, and apologize and own the moment, and then move on from it and figure out a way to not let that happen again. And there's tools and stuff like this within the challenge for it.
I like that one a lot.
Those are the 5.
One is phenomenal, because I think so many people allow the stresses of life to create reactive type behavior. And something I love about just the process of be quick but not in a hurry, or meditation, or just the concept of like between stimulus and response, there's a space. Giving yourself that space to then process and then have a response rather than just a word vomited reaction teaches a presence and patience into the human. I very much appreciate that one, man.
Well, there's a fascinating one about that, because that was the core of what started all of this. Because I had a no yell challenge I did like 3 years ago that I wanted to stop yelling at my kids. And I didn't yell much, but when I yelled, it was scary. And it was usually in response to something acutely happening. And I was like, and I would lose it. But I realized I didn't have a space. So I had to figure out how to create a space. And I initially did it with a gimmick where I basically said, well, I don't have a space here. So what I'm going to do is if I yell at my kids, I'm going to give them $5. That's awesome. Like in the moment.
That's so good.
Because so like I literally, right as I said this as a challenge, literally 5 minutes later, I yelled at my kids and I had to be like, damn it. And like forked. And in the moment I pulled out a $5 bill and handed it to him. And my son was like, and like ran off, you know? And that single instance then set itself in my head as like, dude, you're going to lose $5 if you do this. And it's not like I care that much about $5, and I'm not rewarding him for me yelling. I'm literally just like, how can I create a gap? And I didn't have a way to create a gap. So I did it with a gimmick initially. And then that gave me presence and space to really examine all the other stuff that was going on. And then over the past 3 years, I've developed all of these other tools to regulate, because that's what it is you're unregulated and you don't have a space. So this challenge is about learning to regulate your brain and to be more in control of the environment. So that has to do with being healthy in these different areas.
Cool. How do you get that level of awareness? So that's because most men, like with 4 kids, 4 dogs, chickens, responsibilities with street parking, responsibilities as a husband, as a father, trying to get your own training time in, like you've got a lot going on. And most people would justify it with like, that's just the way I cope. Like, that's just the way I have to get it done. Like, if you want me to keep paying to keep a roof over the head, like, blah, 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 whatever the justification is. How did you put a grasp on yourself to be like, no, I want to be a better man. And once I learn this skill, I'm going to find a way to pay it forward to others.
If we take it back to the CrossFit stuff, like I'm very outcome based. I'm always going like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because the point is to be like, I need to get this outcome. And if this outcome, I'm not getting this outcome, then why do I keep doing what I'm doing? So the outcome I'm looking for, and this is something I set early on, is like, I want my kids to grow up to be amazing men. Like I want them to be good people, like strong and kind and capable and all of these things. And so I go, is the parenting that I'm doing leading to that outcome? And there was non-congruencies within that of like, is yelling achieving the outcome that I want? In the moment, it gets their attention, but is it like when you see the looks on their face, they break, right? And I'm like, I don't want that. Like, I don't want my son scared of me. Like, that's not the outcome I'm going for. So that specific thing was like recognizing that I'm looking for a different outcome and I'm getting the wrong outcome. So I'm like, oh shit. Well, what can I do here? And I guess part of take it back, like I was in a good place. I was in a good place with a lot of other things. I have a good relationship. I had, at the time, my finances were really good. Like all of these other things were set to a place where I'm like, I'm not worried about stuff. So because I'm not worried, I can step back. I know I'm loved. So I can step back and go, what's going on here? And I think that was what allowed me to have a little bit more presence than a lot of other people do, even amongst the amount of responsibility that I have. And I think that level of reflection, and we might have talked about this before, I started writing like 6 years ago, and that reflection is really, really key to like wanting to make the change. If you find yourself writing in your journal over and over again, and I yelled at my kid again today, I don't want that to happen. And then you go back and you look and there's like 12 of these entries. You're like, well, that seems to be a pattern I should adjust. So having some evidence that you yourself put down that you trust because you did it is a good way to be more reflective with that. So I guess awesome.
I'm a big believer that writing fills the gaps within our thinking. For people that maybe struggle with a journaling practice, they're like, I don't know what to write about, or I don't want to put in the time. You know, I love the versions of the 5-minute journal, or, you know, set your timer for 7 minutes, and, you know, what went well today, what didn't go so well today, what were the highlights, what's maybe tomorrow's to-do list. You know, that could be a loose, you know, option. But what does your journaling practice look like for people that are maybe trying to figure out some structure in that arena?
Sure. I mean, I think there's 2 different ways. You can do prompts or you can do free thought. And prompts are kind of like what you said. Hey, what is this? What is this? What is this? There's the Stoic Journal has one that's great. It's just some like little prompts in there. I have like a 30 days worth of journaling for fathers that you can do. It's an email that'll just send you an email every day, and it's 30 journal prompts for fathers. I personally actually freeze up with prompts. What I need, and I also struggle with journaling at night. So if I'm journaling at night, I need a prompt because, and I'm kind of like gritting down and like making it through because I like my brain's fatigued. I have to journal in the mornings. So like that hour that I told you about before, when I started waking up an hour before my family, you're sitting there doing nothing. You're staring off into distance. So you're like, I guess I'll pull out this book here. And you stare at the book and then like, what am I thinking about right now? And then you just start writing. And I think that is like, that's my style of journaling these days. Doing it in the mornings and then just going with what's on my mind. So right now my journal is full with a lot of fatherhood ideas, like content ideas and, you know, all these different things, because that's where my brain's at. But there's other days I wake up and I go, oh God, I can't believe I drank again last night. Like I told myself I wouldn't. Why did I drink again last night? I'll do better today. Here's how I'm going to do better today. You know, like whatever it is. So I think finding what works for you. I did a whole article on it, and if you sign up for that journaling thing, it's like I've done a bunch of little silly things like making it really easy. I bought these pens that I really like. Mm-hmm. That was huge. Like there's a very specific pen that has a plastic nub, and I got this special pen. I got these little, on all my journals, I have these little like tongues that you can add that hold the pen with the journal. So I'm never, if I have, the pen's always there. And that, like those 2 things were game changers.
I think that's huge. You know, when you have a pen that doesn't freaking want to write, it makes journaling so annoying. And I think it's in alignment with like food prep, for example, the compliance the convenience is what leads to the compliance. And so like being able to open your fridge, got your food prep, boom. Yeah, man, these are great little tips, little nuggets. Definitely shoot us over. I'll text you my email and shoot me over your newsletter, your email. We'll definitely put that in the show notes for people to check it out for sure. Other than fatherhood, man, do you guys have any summer vacations coming up? What are you guys kind of really excited about leading up into summer?
I'm really excited for these retreats that I'm going to be running. My first one at the end of this month. I'm like they're so profound for dudes. And that was what got me journaling, was I went on a retreat and it uncorked. Like I didn't journal till I was 35. And then all of a sudden I went on this retreat and it just uncorked this potential. Like, cause I'm super insecure about my writing and my spelling. Cause again, scholastically, I am, deemed myself unintelligent, which I've come to realize is not true. I'm
master educator, just not intelligent to what the societal norm would classify it as.
Exactly. I couldn't fit within that structure, and I recognize that, and I could probably do a lot better now. I actually went back to school, got my EMT, and crushed everything. And I was like, this is way more fun when I want to do this stuff.
Awesome. Oh, EMT school. I did that once upon a time when I thought I was going to be a firefighter after basketball. That was fun.
Yeah.
Man.
Super fun. I loved EMT school. But I'm really stoked to do these retreats because they're so profound for people. My wife's going to Switzerland to visit a friend for a couple weeks. We got some camping. I'm looking forward to playing a lot of volleyball. I've got a volleyball camp that I'm actually going to in where am I going? Oregon, I want to say. Driving up there with my little brother. It was my birthday gift from my wife. So we're doing like a road trip, and we'll do this like 4-day camp of just like play volleyball all day with a bunch of like other mediocre volleyball players.
I love beach volleyball, be great. Man. Such a fun thing. That's great, dude. You know what else is really cool? You've curated a life that you don't need to escape from. You know, that's a big one.
For sure.
Yes, I like, travel, vacations and different things, or just a change of scenery, because it creates that space. You come back with a different mindset and you kind of think about things in a different fashion. But I also love our life. So, like, I literally said this to my buddy the other day. The best part about Stagecoach was coming back from Stagecoach and being like, oh, I missed my home.
Yeah. It's really good. I think when you can create a life that's like that, my whole family's like that. We'll go on these amazing trips, and we love our trips that we go on. But every time we come home, we're like, oh, it's so good to be home. So good to see the animals. So good to like be on the property, and it's so quiet. I mean, I'm the luckiest dude ever. Like the property, I get it. You'll come see it, Bryce, when you come to one of these retreats. It's like, it's really nice up here, and I'm very fortunate.
Really cool what you guys have crafted up there. How do you manage it all, man? 20,000 plus steps a day, I'm sure.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. I think right now I'm in an extra stressful time because I'm working harder than I've ever worked. Like I'm buckling down, and then I'm not always seeing the results of it, right? I'm like putting a lot of effort into things and not seeing the tangible outcome. So it's exhausting. But I think it's just another phase. I think for me, I'm generally doing things that I want to be doing. And if it's not something I want to be doing, I see its necessity, and I know it's pushing me towards what I want to be doing. And I think that some of the biggest things that make it so I can handle it all is like, I've been honest with myself for like 5 years now, like every single piece of it, like my own failings, everything in between, the people in my life, I've been honest. And that makes me have a general sense of okayness, that it's just like, whatever. Like it's hard, but whatever. So it's going to be okay. Like I can do this. And then picking up the little habits along the way of like, this is how I train. This is how I'm consistent. This is how I eat. Oh, this is how I deviate. This is how I come back to eating. This is how I discipline. This is how I love. This is what intimacy looks like. This is what, adventure looks like. Like I don't know. I'm lucky. Your
mental framework intrigues me, man. I feel like we could have you on the show very frequently. This was really fun to chop it up with you, man, and I appreciate just the honest, the vulnerable conversation. As we wrap things up, man, what's the future of CrossFit? Looks like I saw they got a brand new CEO. What do you think is the future? Do you think they're figuring it out, or do you think they're going through a little bit of a challenge? What are your thoughts on High Rocks and some of these other things that are floating to the surface?
Yeah, I mean, so Bruce is the new CEO. Bruce was the old COO from 2013 to 2019. I actually know him quite well. Cool. He lives here in Santa Cruz. He owned a gym that I went to for a little while. He's a nice guy. He was around during some of the best years of CrossFit, so he knows the core of what's there. His first message to the company was actually a message to all the level 1 trainers, basically being like, hey, you guys are the core of what makes this great. And I'm like, yeah, we are. You need to rely on these people a lot more. I actually don't know. I think there is potential, and I have high hopes for what he would do. But I think that there is a reality to the noise that is in not just the fitness space. Like, have you felt how noisy the internet is, or how noisy the world is right now? How discombobulated and how tribal and how but non-connected, and how there's just so much for purchase and people telling you what to do and how to do it. Like, I think there's many companies going through a profound loss of connectivity with the people that they hope to speak to. So I think that if CrossFit can really figure out their identity, which I think is very clear to me, which is we are the only company that believes in the definition of fitness the way we believe in it. And we do CrossFit because it supports that definition. And remember, fitness is the ability to say yes to life. And this is the program that supports the ability to say yes to life better than any other program. I think if they can really hone in on that identity, bring back some of the old blood of making it interesting, of like what if we brought back, the Buttery Bros guys and had them do the media again, and made it less about like the party, but more about the core of it. Like, I think there's a way that CrossFit shrinks in total size, but its core stays like golden. And I'm okay with that. And then as the world becomes clearer, and as people's, tribes that they become a part of start to, filter out, like we start to believe in the things that are in front of us again, which are like the gyms. Like, I don't care what the internet space says. Like, I want you to go to a gym where you love the people who are there and you're having a great time with it. I want you to meet a coach like Bryce who can connect with you in a way and get you, set up to where you live the highest quality possible life. And then you become best friends and that whole thing happens. Like, those are the things that are real. And the program that gets people there oftentimes is CrossFit mixed with other stuff. So if we can find our identity in that, I think there's high potential, but there's a lot of ifs there. I know the program's going nowhere. I'm not ever doing anything different because I know how effective it is for the least amount of time.
I think that's all very, very true. And I think the big one the big needle in the haystack that I want to pull out is every time on the show, we've done over 300 episodes now, and I've talked to some very successful people. Almost every single one talks about how awesome it was in the early days when something was really small. I was talking about trying to grow like ALLSMITH apparel and how my wife and I just have like a little sweatshop in our garage and we're handwriting notes and sending things out. And I was speaking to somebody that worked for Viore and they were just like, man, I would give anything to go back to those days. Now it's just outsourced this and that, and it's become where there's not that tangible connection. I think you're spot on there. The other thing that stands out to me really well about CrossFit is that, Pat, after high school, or if people have the privilege to play college sports, you don't really have a one-stop shop where everybody gets to connect and spend time in the same place every day. And that's what I'm seeing here, at least in my small little pocket of San Diego. Like, dude, they're opening a Blockbuster down the street from me. And I think it's just the coolest thing ever. Like, I'm thinking about putting a fucking N64 in my garage because I just want to play Super Smash Brothers against people. People are coming over to do sauna and ice, and it's not about the sauna and ice. It's about being in a space.
No.
And yes, we happen to do things that are good for our health and relatively challenging, but it's about that tribal connection. And that's what I think CrossFit did such a phenomenal job. And those are the things that are part of the 9 ancestral tenets, which is bonding. And yes, it makes you better at life and you get to understand perspective and all the things. Like, I'm rooting for CrossFit, man. I love that gentleman, Bruce, is in Santa Cruz, like close to the roots. Yeah. And I think you're right. I think trimming the fat, getting it a little bit smaller, bringing Heber and Mars and the Buttery Bros in to story tell and kind of make it fun. And like to summarize all of this, what they do well, what you do well, what I'm still learning is making humor my default emotion. And I think if you can do that, man, life gets a little bit lighter and the tools get a little bit more fun to play with.
Sure.
Today was fun, buddy. Sure. Thanks so much for chopping it up with me. Yeah. And any last minute thoughts you want to share?
Nah, I think we beat it all into the ground. Well, we're all good. I just got to run off and do a couple phone calls, but thank you for the chat, man.
Guys, if you enjoyed my conversation with Pat Barber, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Till next time. Thanks, buddy.